Well, now to the economy. What is happening with the global economy? Some really troubling signs over the past 48 hours. Americans facing huge numbers of job losses. The Great Resignation, we're getting a price tag on that. Food prices skyrocketing. Egg shortages. Peter Schiff says 2023 could be the worst year yet for the U.S. dollar. And the World Bank says, hey, get ready for a massive recession. So what is the truth on all of this? I wanted to talk to someone who understands the economics of what's happening, someone who's plugged in deeply to the commodities markets, gold and silver. That's Kevin DeMeritt, who is the CEO of Lear Capital, which is the largest precious metals firm in the U.S. Kevin, welcome back to the show. Good to see you. When we spoke back in October, you said at the time, this was a prediction, but based on data, you thought that the time was up for the U.S. dollar, and it looks like you were right. What made you say that at the time, and are you more convicted now than ever about the U.S. dollar?
Well, I am. I think the World Bank, who you brought up, came out and said they slashed their growth forecast from 3% on a global basis to 1.7% per year for 2023. So, people think of these percentages, and I think it just goes right over their heads. But when you really think about it, and you're talking about growth, think about you're working at your company and sales fall off by almost 50%. It's a huge issue. And we saw growth falling off in companies and throughout the economy, and now it's being confirmed. So when you see that growth fall off, you usually see a dramatic fall off in the value of your currency, and the US dollar should have, like Peter Schiff was saying, in our opinion, one of its worst years in 2023, and I think it might even continue into 2024. But Clayton, one of the things that the World Bank also said that I think is something people should really pay attention to is the global economy was going to go from 3% growth to 1.7%. In the article, they said the U.S. is going from growth of 2.4% to 0.5%, which is an 80% decrease in growth. And that's really going to hit the dollar hard.
And in addition to which, I want to get your take on this: China, Russia, Saudi Arabia. I mean, even the Glenn Beck radio show yesterday, he went into great detail about the coming ditching of the U.S. dollar. We've been hitting that drum here on the show for the last year to 2 years. A lot of these major world economies, the BRICS nations particularly, running away from the U.S. dollar. Do you see that continuing or really ramping up in 2023?
I do. There was an article out talking about central banks purchasing gold at the highest level for 55 years. I think the wild card here is China. Do they continue to hold our debt when inflation's running at 7%? Maybe it lowers to 6%, but they're only getting 3% on the debt that they hold, for U.S. denominated currency. So I think China continues to liquidate more and more, and they've picked their asset of choice, which is gold. They added 30 tons of gold in December, and they're back in the market purchasing, throughout January. So I think you're going to see more and more of those companies liquidating dollars and moving over to other assets, gold being a big one.
Now, you're a gold guy. I'm a fan of commodities. People have heard me talk about that on the show. Gold, silver, of course. So when you hear that the Federal Reserve is arguably moving towards this digital currency, you see this bigger push now to get rid of cash and move us towards a system where they have control of our bank accounts, sort of a social credit score. They can amplify that anytime they want. What do you see coming? I mean, what are you hearing from your gold clients? Are they concerned about this? Are they worried, or are they buying more gold because they know what's coming? What are you hearing in that regard on the digital currency side?
Yeah, you're starting to see it in gold over the past 3 or 4 months for a few reasons. Number one, inflation. Number two, the higher interest rates. So gold benefits from that, which usually causes volatility in other markets. So people want to get away from that as well. But within that, you're hearing people talk about exactly what you just talked about. I like my privacy. Gold is one of the last investments where I get a little bit of privacy, and the government's just trying to get into my finances and my life more and more and more. So I need something that I can, at least have off to the side where every purchase I make, they don't know what's going on there. So yeah, we're hearing more of it, and I think you're going to hear a lot more of it as they talk about it more, because there's some tests going on with some of the larger banks with digital currencies, like we're seeing in China. And I think more and more of that hits the news. More investors will want to move over to something that they control as opposed to the government controlling them.
Hallelujah. Amen. I mean, we've been saying that here on the show for a long time. Please, protect your family. Make sure that you're protected with things that you control and not these governments. I want to bring you this headline, which we just got from the Daily Mail. New graphic reveals extent of the Great Resignation. How many people have actually quit their job since 2021, and which industries have been hit the hardest? And what they're predicting is a massive amount of layoffs into this year, which will continue. We've been hitting the layoff beat here for quite a while, saying we're going to see a lot of massive job losses here in the first quarter of 2023. So some of the industries that have gotten hit hardest, hospitality has been slammed. And these new statistics coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics show how this trend unfolded. A lot of these resignations started in 2021, pouring through 2022. And it seems like millions more are about to either choose to lose their job or be forced out of work. Kevin, what are you seeing on that side?
Well, I think it's going to be a forced out of your work because, people can afford basic necessities right now more than they can. I'm going to go to Vegas or I'm going to take a vacation, so on and so forth. So, I think that's going to be challenging for the market. Folks can't afford a lot of purchases, like I said, out of the necessity. So that leads to companies not being able to charge more for their products, even though their prices are going up. So, profits are shrinking. And so if you're in the entertainment industry, that's kind of the first place people say, let me pull back. I'm not going to go to the movies as much. I'm probably not going to go to a vacation or so on and so forth. They pull back on a lot of that. So I would see that accelerate. And then, with profit shrinking, you got to lay off people. You got to survive, and they can't pass on those higher prices. So they have to, find savings somewhere, and it's going to be on the people side usually.
I wanted to get your take on the supply chain, and we'll get you out of here on this, Kevin, the supply chain issue. So we just got word. We're obviously been focusing on like egg prices, food shortages, high cost of food. And so over the past few weeks, Americans have been dealing with the high cost of eggs and talking about that. That's become quite a bit of a meme. But now we're hearing from farmers that are saying, don't believe all of this talk about avian flu as the cause for the lack of birds, the lack of hens. No. We simply can't afford it. That these farmers are now being squeezed out, and that's the reason why we're having these shortages. According to a couple farmers, the producers can't cover their costs, and now they have millions of fewer hens because they can't afford to feed them and take care of them, and now that means millions fewer eggs per day. Can you talk about the supply chain crunch?
Yeah, you are seeing that supply chain crunch everywhere, and the government wants to talk about the fact that it has to do with China or it has to do with, something else, because they never want to talk about inflation, right? It was transitory when everybody in the world knew that it wasn't going to be transitory if you thought about it for 9 seconds. And this is more of the same. It is inflation. The cost of goods is going through the roof. They need to slow it down. And people just can't get their companies to make any money. They have to find ways to cut costs. It's either going to be people, it's going to be less hens, it's going to be something out of the equation because you can't pass on all of the price increases they're seeing to consumers. They can pass on a little bit of it, but at some point, consumers just don't have the money. You need to stay in business. You need to shrink your business. It's going to be challenging for the stock market. Makes it challenging for the real estate market. It makes it challenging for business. And when you see those kinds of price increases that are having this kind of a dramatic effect, you really need to look at your investments to try to figure out how to, maybe take advantage of an investment that's going to benefit from higher inflation, higher interest rates, a weaker dollar, and some of the things that are going out there with digital currency, so on and so forth. This will continue, in my opinion, Clayton, into 2024. And that's why the World Bank is saying that we're going to see the slowdown going into that year as well.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people coming to you guys right now to get advice on gold. Where can people learn more about what you guys do as far as like protecting an IRA with gold or rolling over a 401k into gold and silver?
Yeah, we have a gold wealth protection guide, has a lot of answers to some of the questions you were answering about inflation and how to protect yourself against the volatility, inflation, higher interest rates, so on and so forth. And I'd really suggest looking at silver right now. What an incredible opportunity. Last time gold traded this high, silver prices were double where they are right now. So I think that's an incredible opportunity for people to look at. And I know we've set up a unique URL for your viewers, and they can go to the URL, fill out the information, and we will get them a full package of information free of charge. And then, if they like what they see, give us a phone call and we'll kind of walk through some options and help them out the best we possibly can.
Yeah, I'm a big investor in silver right now, so smart play to really kind of protect your portfolio on that. We'll have a link in the description below if anyone wants to take advantage of that. Kevin, great to see you, my friend. Hopefully 2023 will be a good year for precious metals and commodities, something that we watch very, very closely, and hopefully people will protect themselves right now against this sort of cratering U.S. dollar. Thanks so much, Kevin. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Clayton.
Yeah, and as Gerald Salenti just said, I mean, he literally said like silver is going to explode this year. And Peter Schiff just a few moments ago, just speaking on Dan Bongino's show, saying that we are about to see, he says the recession that everybody denies exists is going to get much worse. He says that some people in the mainstream media seem to think a big stock market rally is in the cards, and he says, I don't see that, and that optimism is unfounded. And if we see any kind of rally at all, it's going to be because artificial quantitative easing and additional throwing of the money.